This week on the sourdough trials, what I make is pumpkin flavored and pumpkin shaped. I begin with sourdough starter that has been fed and is ready to use. I measure out 80 grams of starter. For the pumpkin flavor, I'm using pumpkin puree in place of half of the water. So instead of 300 grams of water, I use about 150 grams of water and 150 grams of pumpkin puree. I add the liquid to the starter and mix to combine. Next, I add 400 grams of bread flour with 1/4 cup of brown sugar. I add about 8 grams of salt and sprinkle in 3/4 of a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. As I'm attempting to stir this into a shaggy dough, I realize it's a bit dry, so I add some more water. Once it has come together, I let it rest for about 30 minutes before beginning the stretch and fold process. The dough is still a bit stiffer than normal, but I still work on stretch and folds. Eventually, I just kind of tuck and roll the dough around itself. After my dough had bulk fermented throughout the day for several hours, I shaped it and put it in the refrigerator overnight. I add a little more rice flour to the top in hopes that my design will pop out. I gently tighten up the shape. I move my dough out of the way to place the strings that are going to make the pumpkin shape. I've pre-cut 4 strings in equal length. Once the strings are placed, I set the dough on top. Loosely tie each string across the dough. Then I go back and tie each string one more time. Cut the extra length of the string. Score each section in whichever design you want. the dough to rest until my oven is preheated. And now for the moment of truth. Okay, other than one small section on the left side that blew out a little bit, I'm really happy with how this loaf turned out. I removed the strings right away. And I add a cinnamon stick for the stem. It feels like the bread has a nice spring to it. I can cut through it fairly easily. The added pumpkin puree gives it a nice color, and the pumpkin spice makes it smell delicious.